Hello everyone, my name is Dakota and welcome to my channel, My Little Library. Today I'm here to do the Intimidating TBR tag. I can't remember who was the original creator of this, but I will link their video down below. But anyway, on to the tag. Question number 1 is, what book have you been unable to finish? And for me, that book would be Between Shades of Grey by Ruta Sepetys. I have tried starting this a couple of times, and I really enjoyed her other book, Salt to the Sea, but for some reason I just can't seem to get into this one. Maybe it's just, I think I just haven't been in the mood to read historical fiction for a really long time, but I am excited to read it, and hopefully I will get into the mood to read it soon. Question number 2 is, what book do you have yet to read because you have not had the time to read it? And for that one I have Lady Midnight by Cassandra Clare. This is partially because I just finished the rest of the Shadowhunters series, but also because this book is quite large and it'll take quite a bit of time to read it. But I do hope to read it this month because that was one of my plans for this month. I was on my TBR, so hopefully I will be able to get to this one this month, and so I will only be one book behind in the Shadowhunters Chronicles. Question number 3 is, what book do you have yet to read because it is a sequel? And for that one I have The Rose and the Dagger by Renee Ahdieh. I read The Wrath and the Dawn last month and absolutely loved it, so I went out and picked up The Rose and the Dagger, but I just have not gotten around to reading it yet. But this is another one that I hoped to read this month, and I still have time, so hopefully I can do that. Question number 4 is, what book do you have yet to read because it's brand new? And I'm kind of cheating on this one. It's not like a brand new release or anything, but it is a brand new book to me. So I have A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. When I got back into reading, this book and like the Throne of Glass series and all those books were super huge, and like they had like a couple books out at that point, I think maybe this one was just the only one out for A Court of Thorns and Roses. But I have not read this series yet, and I really want to because I feel like it is one that I will really enjoy. Plus I also picked it up because it was $6 for a hardback. I mean, I planned on reading it anyway, so I figured I'm not going to be able to beat that deal. Picked it up and just have to read it now. Question number 5 is, what book do you have yet to read because you read another book by the author and didn't like it? And for this one, it's not that I didn't like the books, they just weren't my favorite. And for that one, I don't have the books that I haven't read, but for that one I have To All the Boys I Loved Before by Jenny Han. I just finished reading the Summer I Turned Pretty trilogy by her, and it's not that the books were bad, they just weren't necessarily my type of book. I'm not a huge contemporary fan, and like, this kind of reminded me why I don't read a lot of contemporary, because there's just a lot of angst in these books. I wasn't a huge fan of all the angst, but I have heard that her other trilogy, To All the Boys I Loved Before, is really good, and people really enjoy that. So I'm debating whether or not to pick that up. I might later, like a couple years, like a few months or something down the line, but it's not a priority of mine. Question number 6 is, what book do you have yet to read because you're just not in the mood for it? And for that I have The Bronze Horseman by Paulina Simons. And I got this, well, I got the whole trilogy for Christmas a couple years ago, and at the time I was really into historical fiction, but by the time I got this it was a little after Christmas, kind of fallen out of that. But I do have every intention on reading this, and it's also kind of intimidating because books are quite big. This is over 800 pages. It doesn't look it, but it is over 800 pages, so it's kind of intimidating, but I do plan on getting around to it pretty soon, hopefully sometime next year at least, because I have heard really good things about it, so I do want to get to it. Number 7 is, what book do you have yet to read because it is humongous? For that I have A Game of Thrones by George R.R. Martin, and I have started reading this a couple hundred pages into it, 176 pages into it, but I was putting it off for a really long time because this book and the rest of the series is just humongous, so I was putting it off for quite a while. But I am now reading it, and I am all caught up with the show. Now I just have to read the books. And I was also really hesitant to read these because we still have no idea when the 6th book is going to come out, so I'm not a huge fan of reading series that are not completed because I hate having to wait for the next book. but I had all 5 of these, so I figured why not read them. Question number 8 is, what book do you have yet to read because it was a cover buy, but then you found out it didn't have very good ratings? For this one, I chose a book that I got from an Owl Crate box, but I had intended on picking it up anyway because the cover looked really cool. And that is Three Dark Crowns by Kendra Blake. It sounded pretty cool, so I was gonna pick it up anyway, and like the cover is really pretty too, and I like the background and like the crowns and everything, so it looked really pretty. And then I looked it up on Goodreads and it only has like a 3.86, and typically most of the books I read are like in the 4 point something category and not 3 point something. But I do want to read this. I have it, so I'm going to read it, but it doesn't have like great reviews. Like a 3.86 is not a bad review, but it just, a lot of people I've like seen review this have just kind of been meh about it. They never said it was like great, but they didn't say it was terrible either. And the last question is, what is the most intimidating book on your TBR? And for me, that will be We Are Not Ourselves by Matthew Thomas. It's not the biggest book on my TBR, but it is the most intimidating, mainly because it is an adult book, and I don't typically read those. I typically stay with like YA fantasy books, but this is a adult book. It is fiction, but the situations in it are pretty like non-fictional, because like it's something that people actually went through, and I'm not a huge like non-fiction reader, so it is kind of intimidating, and the story seems kind of dark, and the actual book itself is really heavy. But I am looking forward to reading this because I heard really good things about it. I heard about it through Misha Collins from Supernatural, and he said he like cried during it, and he said it was really, really good and he loved it. So I hope to get to it soon. But yeah, that was my intimidating TBR tag. I hope you guys enjoyed. Like, comment, and subscribe. But I will hopefully be coming at you guys with a new video very, very soon. And let me know down in the comments below what your most intimidating TBR book is. But I will catch you guys all next time. See ya!